In the heart of the infernal abyss, where the torment of the damned reached new heights, Adrian Nightshade, a pure-blood vampire, was enduring a hellish ordeal like no other. Bound to a macabre crucifix, his very existence was aflame with searing agony. It wasn't the kind of pain vampires were accustomed to. It was a torment that seemed to strip away his very essence. Seraphina Vortexbane, the royal demoness herself, stood before him, her sinister smile a chilling contrast to the gruesome scene unfolding. The demon realm's capital thrived on her sacrificial act, as her pure demon blood flowed into Adrian's parched throat. Each drop was like liquid fire, a scorching inferno that devoured his flesh and blood from the inside out. Adrian's scream, a raw and agonized plea for mercy, echoed through the torture-laden corridors of the infernal abyss. But the pain was so excruciating that even his cries seemed to wither away, stifled by the relentless flow of demon blood. Fresh blood was typically a vampire's delight, but demon blood was a horrifying exception. Forbidden for vampires, it was a substance that spelled certain doom, a burning poison that gnawed at their very existence. Seraphina, reveling in the sadistic delight of torturing Adrian, couldn't help but taunt him further. With a wicked grin, she offered a twisted jest. "How is the taste? Is it too hot? Should I cool it down a bit for you?" Adrian, his features contorted in pain, managed to muster a defiant response between gasps. "No, just not enough seasoning. Not that I expect that much from a woman like you." Seraphina's rage flared at his audacity. With a subtle curl of her fist, she summoned her infernal claw, a fiery appendage that engulfed her hand. Her gloved claw descended upon Adrian's chest, striking him twice in rapid succession. The scorching impact seared his flesh, and blood erupted from his wounds, joining the grisly tableau of torment. Seraphina Vortexbane, the embodiment of wrath and power, stepped closer to the crucified Adrian, her rage radiating like a palpable force in the suffocating atmosphere of the infernal abyss. Her eyes, blacker than the deepest pit of hell, bore into his, pinning him under her furious gaze. "How dare you even look at the air of the infernal abyss, the greatest demon realm?" she seethed, her voice dripping with venom. Her anger echoed through the hellish chamber, reverberating off the blood-soaked walls. "Do you think your kind can leave the demon realm after stepping into one? We tear your kind limb from limb here." Even as Adrian teetered on the brink of death, he couldn't help but be ensnared by the intoxicating aura of the demoness. Seraphina, nearly 2 centuries old, was a mesmerizing vision. Her fiery red hair framed a face of unearthly beauty, with lips like Blood Mary petals, and every curve of her body a testament to supernatural perfection. It was no wonder that demonesses were known as enticers, masters of allure. Their unmatched beauty and beguiling scent could enslave even the strongest of wills with a single glance. In that cruel moment, amidst the torturous pain and fiery torment, Adrian found himself torn between the agony of his predicament and the irresistible allure of the demoness who held him captive in her dark and deadly embrace. "Why are you here in hell and not in your dark little crypt? What's the vampires plotting this time?" Seraphina's voice dripped with anger and suspicion as she confronted Adrian, her dark eyes blazing with intensity. Memories of the great war between the vampires and demons, just a century ago, flooded her mind. The vampires, with their cunning and treacherous tactics, had utterly decimated the demons. The bitterness of that defeat still lingered in her veins, and she clenched her teeth in frustration before demanding, "Speak. What are you here for? Why were you in my daughter's chamber? Why?" Adrian's response was laced with a sardonic smile, a mix of amusement and defiance. He couldn't help but find irony in the situation. Here he was, in the very depths of hell, facing the enraged demoness, who happened to be the mother of his lover, Lilith Inferna. The absurdity of it all hung in the air as he began, "I came to see Lilith." Before he could complete his sentence, Seraphina's wrath knew no bounds. With a swift and brutal motion, her clawed hand struck Adrian's face, leaving 3 searing lines across his skin, barely missing his eye. "Don't you dare utter my daughter's name with that bat mouth of yours," she hissed, her fury unrelenting. But Adrian, still grinning, continued, "I came to see my lover, and no point in torturing anymore. Any time now, Lilith." The demoness narrowed her eyes in suspicion, sensing something amiss. Before she could react, a sudden gust of warm wind swept through the chamber, extinguishing every candle and plunging the room into pitch darkness. Seraphina reacted swiftly, conjuring flames in the palms of her hands and hurling 2 fireballs that briefly illuminated the chamber before vanishing into nothingness. However, in that fleeting moment, she realized with a scream of frustration that the candles had not only been extinguished but had also revealed an empty crucifix where Adrian had been moments ago, leaving her seething in defeat. Adrian and Lilith raced through the winding castle hallways, their footsteps echoing the urgency of their escape. Seraphina's enraged screams seemed to follow them, spurring them to move faster. As they approached the stairs that led upwards, they could hear the relentless pursuit behind them, a cacophony of anger and hatred. Reaching the foot of the ascending staircase, Lilith couldn't help but flash a mischievous smile at Adrian. "Life's been an adventure since loving you," she quipped, her laughter tinged with a touch of irony. Adrian couldn't help but join in, despite the painful gash on his face. "Say that to the wound on my face," he replied with a grin, their shared laughter offering a brief respite from the chaos around them. Hand in hand, they ascended the stairs, their bond stronger than ever. As they reached the roof and burst through the door, the entire infernal abyss sprawled out before them, a dangerously beautiful vista from the highest point of hell. The portal, their way out of this nightmarish realm, shone brilliantly just a few feet away. But before they could take another step forward, a sudden whoosh of air heralded the arrival of an unexpected figure. Seraphina, angrier and more determined than ever, had flown up to the roof, positioning herself between the lovers and their escape route. So it was true. "You, the next great demoness, have fallen in love with that scum," Seraphina spat out, her gaze filled with a maelstrom of emotions, hatred, anger, frustration, and a torrent of others. With a chilling determination, she turned her attention to Lilith and posed a question that hung heavy in the air, a last-ditch effort to change her daughter's mind. "Last chance for you. Forget him and give him to me. I want to punish his entire lineage using him." Lilith's grip around Adrian's hand tightened, her eyes locked onto her mother's, a fierce resolve shining through. "I would rather die." Seraphina was genuinely taken aback by the unwavering determination in her daughter's voice. She hadn't expected such steadfast defiance. As a mother, she attempted one final plea, her voice quivering with emotion. "Don't you know what their kind did to your ancestors? My mother, my father, my innocent little brother, killed by their kind. Not even in an honorable fight. Their kind deceived us and massacred them without mercy." Tears streamed down her cheeks. "Will you really betray us and leave with that man?" Lilith turned to Adrian, seeking answers in his eyes. He spoke with a searing anger of his own, fueled by centuries of hatred and injustice. "You sure are an enchantress to the core. Your ancestors loved to seduce too. They seduced my ancestors and enslaved them to learn the secret of immortality. And when they failed, they killed hundreds of slaves one after another like desecrating pests. And when my ancestors finally retaliated and rightfully won the war to avenge the fallen, you accuse us of being dishonorable. I guess you demons never really had any shame from the get-go anyway." The tension in the air was palpable, and Adrian, injured though he was, braced himself for a confrontation with the great demoness. Lilith, however, was lost in a whirlwind of confusion. She had heard the histories, the tales of war and hatred, but Adrian's perspective had thrown her into a maelstrom of uncertainty. Her thoughts raced, and she couldn't help but question what truly transpired 150 years ago, and whether her love for Adrian was a betrayal or an opportunity for something greater. But before she could find her voice and complete her thoughts, her silence became intolerable to her impatient mother. Seraphina lunged at Adrian, her infernal claw poised to slash him. He tried to block, but his injuries hampered his movements, and her claw scored a deep gash across his left shoulder. The impact sent him staggering backward, blood welling from the wound as he fought to maintain his balance. Lilith snapped to reality, her heart pounding in her chest as she noticed Adrian clutching his injured shoulder. She took a step forward, ready to assist him, but the echoing footsteps from the stairwell reminded her that danger was closing in fast. Seraphina wasted no time. She soared upwards and dove with lightning speed toward Adrian, her claw ablaze with bright red flames. Adrian, weakened and resigned, felt a cold shock of despair grip his heart. "Guess that's it for me," he whispered, accepting his impending fate. But just before Seraphina's fatal blow could strike, a powerful force propelled Adrian 5 feet forward, right in front of the portal. Confused and disoriented, he turned to see the unexpected savior, Lilith herself. However, she looked drastically different, her once tiny horns now majestic, her face more mature and alluring, and her aura exuding an overwhelming strength far beyond her former self. Seraphina, surprised by the transformation, uttered in astonishment, "I'll be damned. You evolved into a demoness." Countless devil soldiers poured onto the rooftop, reinforcing their ranks. Tears streamed down Lilith's eyes as she realized the direness of their situation. They were outnumbered and outmatched, with Adrian's wounds deteriorating rapidly due to the demoness' black blood. The outcome seemed grim. Seraphina made one final plea, her voice tinged with a mother's desperation. "Give up now, Lilith. You've finally evolved, with countless possibilities ahead of you. Don't throw your life away for the likes of him. He is not worth it." Adrian's life hung in the balance, his wounds worsening, and his natural ability to heal nullified by the demon blood. He couldn't bear to leave without Lilith, and his eyes reflected a mixture of fear and hope, yearning for a miracle that would allow them to escape together. Lilith's eyes pleaded silently with her mother to reconsider, then turned to Adrian, who clung to a sliver of hope for their love. Tears streamed from her eyes as she made her heart-wrenching decision. "The demons and the vampires are archenemies. Our love was mutiny from the very start. I don't know what happened in the war centuries ago, and I don't know who's right or wrong. All I know is that I love my mother and my people." Lilith clenched her fists, her hands swirling with warm, near-blazing winds. "I can't go with you, betraying my people, my mother." With a powerful thrust, she sent the wind balls hurtling toward Adrian, flinging him into the portal. Just before he disappeared, her voice echoed in his ears, a desperate promise, "But I love you too. So make sure to come back to me. I will wait for you to come with your family's approval. It's a promise." As the portal enveloped him, Lilith's tearful gaze never left him, her words etching into his heart. Her screaming voice faded as he was sucked deeper into the portal, leaving him with the unwavering determination to return to her. Meanwhile, Lilith unleashed her wings and soared toward the portal's control crystal, smashing it to pieces. Seraphina, taken aback by her daughter's actions, questioned, "Why did you destroy the portal? You could have followed after him too." Lilith met her mother's stern gaze with resolve. "You would have waged a new war against them to find me. So instead, I'll remain here until the day he comes, and you willingly marry me off to him." But Lilith's determination didn't waver Seraphina's confidence. "I'll never accept their kinds," she stated, walking toward the door. Before following her mother, Lilith glanced one last time at the shattered portal, her voice trembling as she whispered, "Please leave, Adrian." Tears streamed down her cheeks as she prepared to face the consequences of her fateful choice.